I was reading it in my living room, and I was genuinely actually quite scared, because when my flatmate came home, I actually screamed. And when I finished reading the script, I couldn't stop saying one certain swear word over and over again. And I was quite sort of shaken by it. And now, after seeing it, I was still shaken by it. Like, for at least an hour afterwards, I was just like, speechless.
Lot of intrigue. I don't think you always know what is going on. There's a couple of good twists. And a good female lead, I suppose.
It's very difficult to tell the audience what they are going to be seeing in this film, because it takes such an unusual journey. It starts with a rather frightening sequence, that's not giving too much away, about a childhood trauma, and then we move forward several years and this trauma comes to the surface again in somebody's life. But it's not a standard thriller, because there are patches of it that seem very, very reserved, very held back. But that's something that only adds to the sense of normality in these people's lives, so that when we see somebody under psychological stress, the other characters are more baffled by her manner when everything else seems so normal. So there are no sort of gratuitous moments of tension. When you're least expecting it, very strange things happen, and you realise that this is not necessarily all in our leading character's imagination, and we're taken into that darker world with her. And when the tension starts to ratchet up, it begins to gather pace and becomes quite nightmarish.
I think expect the unexpected. You know, it might sound like a cliche, but it's very original, but it's also very sort of recognisable. And what I mean by that, there's a certain hooks and things. It reminded me of kind of early 70s films, and I always have this weird thing where I think of a film, and I sort of call them a film that go because what I mean by that is like the end sums up but doesn't sum up. And I'm not saying this particular film or not, but you never really know what's going to happen. You never really know what to expect. And I think the way that this film drives forward and the way that the pace continues, you're just left very open. You feel very vulnerable.
It's very intense. It's quite claustrophobic. I think it's really exciting. I think you're constantly kind of a little bit on edge, waiting to see what's going to happen. I think it's all in your head. I think you don't see a great deal of stuff, but I think you can't relax with it at any point.
I think the audience can expect a really compelling movie, because although I knew what was going to happen, I could tell that if I didn't, I would have had no idea what was going to happen next. And it's hard to tell, and there's all these different things going on, and you don't really know what's linked and what's not. And I think some of the scenes might be quite tense and nerve-wracking and a bit scary.
I think people can expect a real head shake-up. I think it's a very, very visceral film. I think it's very violent mentally, not graphically. It kind of reminds me of the old school sort of films like Frenzy and Psycho. It's a real psychological thriller.
What's most scary is that you can actually understand the psychology of the baddie, and you can understand why, in some sick way, you can understand why he's doing what he's doing, which doesn't make it okay, but it's scary because there are so many scary people out there in the world, and you don't know how they're gonna react and what they're gonna do. And I think that's why this film is so psychologically thrilling.